Hi, welcome to the first quick Q&A that I'm doing for my Patreon page, and I'll get right into it. This is answering a question from Thomas Biddle, and I'll read his question first, then I get to the answering. So Thomas writes, "Greetings from Canada, love your work, Wim. Your books and blogs inspired me to start Sundown," which I think is pretty cool that you started that because of some of the stuff I did, and thank you for the kind words. Here's this question: if you had only a limited amount of time, a day or less, to physically prepare someone for a self-defense situation, what would you focus on? Now, this is supposing that the person already has a solid understanding of awareness and behaviors that help prevent violence in the first place. So things like leaving and so on. So that's the assumption. What physical techniques or principles are most important to teach someone who does not want to devote a lifetime to martial arts or self-defense study? Is it worthwhile for someone who will not continue training to learn basic technique at all, or is this more likely to put them in danger? It's a good question, Thomas, and I get that one a lot. So I'll try to explain the way I look at this. The first thing is, I've done this in the past, many times actually, where I've taken people who had zero skills to begin with, and we only had a very limited amount of time to do some self-defense training. I've done this over weekend seminars, I've done this over day seminars where I only had people like 6 to 8 hours to train with, and then had to explain everything to them in that session. I've recently done this with somebody who was moving to a different part of the world, and he wanted to have some basic self-defense skills. I think we trained about 8 to 10 hours in total, so a very limited amount of time. What I teach is I call it basic self-defense. It's a system that I learned many years ago, well over 20 years ago, when I was doing a seminar with another instructor, and then we started developing it together. And afterwards, he did his thing with it. I'm doing something else, and I've kept on tweaking it for the past 20 plus years. And if people come to me for basic self-defense, not martial arts, not anything special, just basic self-defense, that's what I teach. So it's a simple and very robust system which has versatile techniques that you can use in a majority of situations, which is basically the most common things that you will encounter as far as self-defense goes. The way that I teach it, it's a starting point. So it's not the perfect or the best system. I don't believe that exists, but it's a starting point. You can start with training with it and be competent in a very short amount of time because of the way that it's structured. It works out of the box, and that's the whole point. It needs to work right away, and you have to then take it into whatever direction you like. There's only 6 techniques in there for offensively speaking. They're easy, they're quick to learn, they work well, and you can use them both to incapacitate somebody or to control them. So it's a very, very limited system, but the main thing is that those techniques come back again and again. The main part of the system is teaching how to get to those techniques. That's the key thing. And once you can get to them, once you show that to people, they know it. It's not rocket science. Once you show this is how you get to your technique from this position and so on, then they can practice on their own and perfect it and ingrain it. But the knowledge is already there. And what I then do with people once I have them, let's take the assumption that you have like a full day seminar and that's it. I tweak the techniques and the system a little bit for them personally, what would work well for their body type, their mindset, their personality, and so on. I tweak it a little bit on those things, on the natural responses that I see that they have, and then I give them feedback during the training. So that is in a nutshell the way that I do it, and I've been doing this for a long time. When people ask me specifically that question, or when I've been asked to teach seminars where the point is to get from A to Z very, very quickly. Again, remember, this is basic self-defense. I'm not talking martial arts, because that was specific what you asked. So not martial arts, not a full self-defense system or style or art or whatever, just something that works really quickly out of the box. So that is the first part. There are some keys that I think are important on making this work. Some of the things that I think are important. If you don't use those, then it's not going to be as effective, or it's going to be difficult to get to a worthwhile result. So that I'm going to cover those keys now. So the first one is I use a progressive and an incremental approach. That means that I have a very specific hierarchy in the way that I teach. Now that has evolved throughout the last 20 plus years. The way I teach it now, the basic self-defense system is very different from what I did before. And the point is that there needs to be a progression. Because you have limited amount of time, everything you teach needs to be efficient, and it needs to build on the previous part. So it's like a good snooker player setting up, he's going to put one ball in the pocket and then he's setting up the next shot already. So everything you do needs to be part of a coherent whole. And that is what I try to do with that system. And it's a progressive and incremental approach, meaning that you go from one thing to the next, but it's in small steps. So that way when somebody can master one thing, they can more easily get to the next part, as opposed to having to take really big leaps forward in progress, which is very difficult to do. But if you can break it down to smaller steps, then people can quickly make progress, and that's the whole point. So the first thing that I teach them is body mechanics. I've talked about this, well, I've actually made a video about this, power control with Paladin Press. I'll put a link in the comment section, where I explain in detail the way that I teach people how to generate power. Well, I should correct that. One of the ways that I teach that. There's many different ones. The ones that I show in power control, and specifically the opening and closing rotation, I think that is a very good basic system to learn power generation. Once you can do that, you can tweak it and change it to your liking, but it works pretty much out of the box. So that's what I teach first. Once they can do that, then we go into offense. Techniques that are offensive in nature, and that you're actually going to attack the other guy, and afterwards we focus on defense, and it's that progression that I noticed makes a lot of sense, and helps people actually making a lot of progress. So that's the first key. Second key, a lot of the time that I spend teaching that system is devoted to showing how it all fits together. Because there are only about 6 techniques, and they're not really difficult. I mean, I can teach them to people in about 1 hour, and they'll be proficient at them because they're so easy. But the key thing is showing how it all fits together. Showing how you can use the same thing over and over by emphasizing where the similarities are and where the differences are. And I've been writing about this for years, about the similarities, the differences being just as important as the similarities. And people are tired of me talking about that, but it's a key teaching principle, basically. Is it goes so much quicker if you point out this is how it's similar, but the next thing I want you to do, it's different in this and this aspect. So focus on that, because the rest you already know. So that is the second key, is making sure, if people have to make fast progress, is that you focus on both similarities and then pointing out the differences, so they don't waste time reinventing each technique as they learn it. And this is a difficult point for many people to understand if they're not used to learning that way. Because if you're a martial artist, you're told, well, you have to do this thousands of times, years on, before you perfect that. And that is true. But the initial phase of learning can go very quickly to a level of competence, or even beyond that. So at first, when you learn something, you can make a lot of progress quickly, and then afterwards you have to refine and make it better and better, and get into more detailed work, and that takes a lot longer. So there's a trade-off in how much time you invest in something and how much you get back out of it. But for a basic self-defense system, it needs to be working right away. So that is the second point, is making sure that they learn quickly, and then we get to the similarities and differences aspect. So that's something that comes back all the time. For instance, I teach them how somebody grabs you, and they have a specific reaction to that, and then the next time somebody punches you with that same arm along the same line. Many people with no training, at first they freak out. And I show them, look, this is the exact same thing as when the guy grabbed you. That arm is following the same angle, it's the same side, and so on. Use the same response that we did before, and it's going to work. And once they understand that, then they notice, well, no, he's right. It's just a little bit different, and the differences are important. But let's see what I can already do, and then use that again and tweak it a little bit for those differences. So that's one example. Moving on to the third point. This is my approach. I'm not saying this is the best one, but it's something that I've been using for a while, and I've noticed that it works, and I get good feedback from it, and people seem to like that approach, and it seems to get the results they want. So I keep on working on it, but this is what I do. During the training, I would focus on the three main scenarios, and there are three basic scenarios that tend to come back when we talk about self-defense situations, barring some exceptions in special cases. The most common one are